Do I differentiate usage of these two words, evaluation and assessment? No, I use them as synonyms. Whenever you're assessing, you're evaluating, and whenever you're evaluating, you're assessing. I do distinguish, as very important, evaluation and assessment versus measurement. Those are not the same thing, because measurement is quantifiable, and a lot of important evaluation, in fact, I would say probably the most important evaluations are qualitative and not quantitative. So I think we live in an age of the worshiping of numbers, and we have to be very careful to see that evaluation, to be good evaluation, does not have to be quantitative. And let me give you an example of how the worship of quantifiable stuff can lead us astray. It was about 7 years ago that every Department of Education, State Department of Education, Louisiana Department of Education, Illinois State Department of Education, presented their voluminous reports on the state of the state based on the test scores that they had given. And each state announced that, lo and behold, their students had scored above the national average. And they had the statistics to prove it. Wasn't this remarkable? Everyone's above average. Well, one evaluator finally said, hey, this doesn't make sense. Everyone cannot be above average. What's the problem? Well, the problem was that the actual agenda was to massage the statistics so that you could make your state look good. It's a political agenda. But it was cast in all of these graphs and charts, and all of the, all of these professional statisticians were used as armies of people serving a vested interest. So what we have to watch out for is numbers prove nothing. And they may be setting us off in the wrong direction. You see this problem, which is very common. Looking to establish a sort of set of numbers in an area where you're dealing with something qualitative. For example, the ability to be a good critical thinker is a qualitative thing. I mean, you can't put a number on my critical thinking ability with much ultimate usefulness. I mean, what am I, 70, 75, 80, 45? Now, you can invent a way of giving me, some number, but the number is probably going to be pretty arbitrary in the last analysis. But you can do a qualitative evaluation, which would be very revealing. You do a profile of me as a critical thinker, describing my strengths and my weaknesses, and doing critical thinking in various dimensions. This would be very valuable and very revealing, but it would have no numbers in it. What is the difference between accuracy and precision as a standard of evaluation? Well, accuracy, and a statement can be accurate and not precise. And by the way, a statement could be precise and not accurate. So suppose I said, your forehead is very warm. That may be quite accurate. However, it's not precise. So if we take a temperature reading, we now get precision where before we had only accuracy. But suppose, on the other hand, somebody said, gee, this patient has 240-degree temperature. We can say, that can't be accurate. Are they alive? Yeah. Can't be accurate. Can't be accurate. If it was very precise, they might say 240.567. That would be very precise number, but not accurate. Now, by the way, a good way to manipulate people, if you want, is give them precise numbers. They will assume they're accurate. So the more precise your numbers are, the more accurate people will think they are. And so all you need for an unscrupulous person is to cite studies that never have occurred, giving all kinds of precise numbers, and people will assume accuracy. So that's the distinction there. Let's take another question. Please clarify the concepts of breadth and depth. To what extent can one's thinking reflect one but not the other? How are they connected? Okay, depth, as I'm using the concept, refers to the degree to which one digs beneath the surface into the complexities of a matter. Now, there are many issues within subject areas that are deep questions but not broad ones. That is, they're questions of complexity within a given subject matter, but they don't require multiple points of view. They require that you master one point of view extremely well. So they could be a very complicated question in mathematics, in a certain domain of mathematics. And the important thing may not be to look at it from multiple standpoints, but simply to know the mathematics, to know how to get into these kinds of complex determinations. Let me give you an example from another area. Very often you have good political thinkers who are very deep but not very broad. So they may be a deep liberal thinker or a deep conservative thinker, but they may be very poor at being fair to the other point of view. So what does it mean? It means they deal with complexities and they go beneath the surface, but they tend not to be enriched by multiple points of view. So the questions for depth are, what are the complexities of this question? Let's describe them and get them on the board. Then let's make sure we deal with them. So when you say this, are you dealing with this complexity or that complexity? Okay, now we could do that, but all from one point of view. Now for breadth we say, can we look at these complexities from a different point of view now? Now we're going into breadth. So my example would be, for example, Bill Buckley. I think he's a very deep thinker, but I think he's a very deep conservative thinker. He is definitely not a deep liberal thinker, and therefore, for the depth of liberal thought, do not go to Bill Buckley. He's not that broad in his thinking. So you can distinguish then depth from breadth with this discrimination. And students should know the difference, because students, of course, are very impressed, at least some students are, with depth, but the depth may lack breadth, and that may be very significant. Due to the constraints of time, aren't the categories of depth and breadth sometimes mutually exclusive? Yes, I suppose we live in a society that has sacrificed breadth on the altar of depth. In other words, an age of specialists. And education tends to aim at depth within different domains, irrespective of the breadth of the student. So I think that's important. Is assessment the same as evaluation? Yes, I'm not distinguishing those.